I presented as an omega right in front of my arch nemesis, and to make things worse, I went into heat. Next thing I knew, he'd forcibly bonded with me. A permanent bond. I basically blacked out and pulled a classic move. Got knocked up and skipped town. 3 years later, he cornered me at my front door, ready to read me the riot act. Do you mind telling me why I woke up one morning and my other half was just gone? I was honestly terrified when Nick showed up at my doorstep. He looked like he'd been through hell. His normally pristine suit was wrinkled, and there was a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. Nick's face was grim. Aren't you going to invite me in? My hand was frozen on the doorknob. I didn't know whether to open it or slam it shut. Steeling myself, I forced a fake smile. I don't think that's necessary. We're not that close. He let out a cold laugh and stepped toward me, his alpha pheromones washing over me like a tidal wave. Not close? We've slept together? And you're telling me we're not close? Ben, you need to take responsibility for me. That familiar lychee scent was making my head spin all over again. Having been permanently bonded and then celibate for 3 years, I had zero defense against his pheromones. My knees went weak and I started to slide down, instinctively grabbing his sleeve and pulling myself closer to him. Just as I was about to beg for mercy, the door creaked open a crack. A small head popped out from the gap, calling out to me in a tiny, sweet voice, "Daddy, Daddy, what are you playing with the uncle?" Now it was Nick's turn to be stunned. He instinctively reined in his pheromones, his eyes darting between the little boy and me. He looked like he was waiting for an explanation. I wasn't giving him one. Let him sweat. This whole mess actually started a long time ago. Nick and I were destined to be rivals. Our families were business competitors, so we were at each other's throats from day one. It got even worse when we were 13. He presented as an alpha, and I presented as a beta, which just gave him one more thing to hold over my head. Our relationship hit rock bottom. And as fate would have it, we were in the same class in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and even ended up at the same university. It was a cursed connection we just couldn't shake. In college, I avoided all clubs and activities just to keep from running into him and ruining my appetite. Nick was the epitome of a top-tier alpha. Most alphas have strong, woodsy or alcohol-based scents. His was lychee, that sweet, fruity scent, combined with his striking good looks, won over a legion of omegas and even a fair number of betas. Even the person I had a secret crush on would run to the basketball court every day to bring him water. Seriously, what a joke. It was a real eye-opener. It was like he was born to be my personal kryptonite. I figured if I avoided him hard enough, our paths wouldn't cross again. But then, during our junior year, a party brought us crashing back together. And this time, it cost me the rest of my life. Lewis was a high school classmate of mine who went to study abroad after graduation. This was the first time we'd seen each other since then. I'd known Lewis since middle school. We were best buds. So naturally, when he invited me, I showed up. Unfortunately, I forgot that Lewis was also Nick's classmate. His presence was both logical and a complete shock. When I walked in, Lewis gave me a huge hug, slinging his arm over my shoulder just like old times. He reached out and pinched my cheek, saying in a teasing tone, "Haven't seen you in years, Ben, but you're still as cute as an omega." I pinched his cheek right back, drawling lazily, "You're not so bad yourself, little Lewis. If you were an omega or a beta, I'd totally hit on you." Lewis immediately pulled his hand back, wiping his fingers on his shirt and looking at me with disgust. "Don't even think about it. My sweetheart would get the wrong idea." I raised an eyebrow, teasing him, "Oh, you got a partner after a few years abroad? Are they from here or overseas?" The mention of his partner brought a blissful smile to Lewis's face. A sweet little omega from abroad. Super cute, he. Getting hit with that sudden display of affection, I quickly changed the subject. Stop. I don't want to hear your love story. Just tell me, what's Nick doing here?" Everyone around us knew Nick and I didn't get along. Lewis was just as confused. "I'm not sure. I posted in the group chat a few days ago. I'm coming back. Let's all get together." I sent the time and place and he just showed up. I thought about it for a moment and figured it made sense for Nick to be there. We went to a private high school where most students came from wealthy families with business connections. Especially in recent years, Lewis's family business had been booming, and a lot of classmates were hoping to network with him for a chance to collaborate. I guess Nick was probably hoping to get a piece of the pie, too. Whatever. It wasn't a big deal. We both, without a word, sat at opposite ends of the table, as far from each other as possible. At the dinner table, Lewis and Nick were the centers of attention. One was the campus heartthrob from H University, a top alpha. The other had just returned from studying abroad, also a top alpha. Both came from equally prominent families, so naturally, they were the main topic of conversation. I sat quietly next to Lewis, occasionally having a few drinks when people came to toast. After a few glasses, my head started to feel fuzzy and heavy. That's not right, I thought. I'm not a heavyweight, but my tolerance isn't this bad. Sensing something was getting worse, I leaned over to Lewis. Dude, I feel weird. A little drunk. I think I'm gonna head out. He put down his glass and looked at me with concern. You okay? Want me to take you home? I shook my head. It's nothing major. We can get together again in a day or two. Just us. With so many people around, Lewis didn't insist. He just nodded and said, all right, be safe then. Text me when you get home. We'll hang out later. After saying my goodbyes, I made a quick escape. After leaving the private room, I couldn't be bothered to go far, so I just got a room at the hotel to rest. Thankfully, the place wasn't just a restaurant. Once in the room, I collapsed onto the bed. My head was getting fuzzier by the second, and I felt like I was running a fever. Remembering Lewis told me to text him when I got home safe, I forced myself to grab my phone. I sent him a message on WhatsApp. In my days, I must have just mashed the screen. Made it. Not home. Felt sick, so I got a room at the hotel. Lewis replied instantly. Sick? Me think I have a fever. What room are you in? I can bring you some medicine. I thought about it for a second. Afraid I might die in the room with no one knowing, I told him. Room 1301. Can you bring some fever reducer? After sending the message, I tossed my phone aside. About half an hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find myself face to face with Nick. What are you doing here? Maybe it was the fever, but my voice came out soft and weak. Nick held up his phone. Didn't you ask me to come? The screen showed my chat conversation with Nick. Oh great. I was so out of it I'd texted the wrong person. I opened my mouth to explain, but I saw Nick's expression change. He looked me up and down, his eyes wide with disbelief. You're an Omega? I laughed. Annoyed. No, you're an Omega. Your whole damn family are Omegas. I felt like my brain was about to melt, and he was here mocking me. He took a deep breath, trying to explain patiently, your pheromones are leaking. They're very strong, like lily of the valley. I just stared at him for a second. My brain completely stalled. It wasn't until the scent of lychee from Nick hit me that I snapped back to reality. I could smell his pheromones. How? I was a beta. Still, his scent was incredible. At first, it was like a burst of underripe lychees after a downpour. Not sweet or cloying, but slightly tart and cool with the scent of rain. Then, the lychee fragrance grew richer, making me want to get closer. I'd had enough health classes to know what was happening. I must be having a second presentation. Secondary differentiation usually happens between 16 and 18. I waited until I was 18, but nothing happened. I was a little disappointed back then, thinking I'd be a beta for life. I never expected that at 20 years old, I'd finally have my second presentation. And I presented as an Omega, right in front of Nick, presenting in front of my arch nemesis. What kind of cosmic joke was this? A wave of shame washed over me. This was just too humiliating. But Nick's pheromones were spreading out, clawing their way through the air and surrounding me. My gaze kept drifting to his scent gland. It was a place I'd never paid attention to before, mysterious and forbidden. He was an alpha, not some sweet, soft Omega. So why did I find his scent gland so incredibly alluring? I fought down the roaring desire inside me and managed to speak. I think I'm having a second presentation. Could you maybe pull back your pheromones? They're affecting me. This feeling of being out of control was infuriating, especially in front of someone I hated. I tried my best to stay calm, but my trembling legs betrayed me. Nick's eyes were turning red, his dark pupils taking on an aggressive glint, like a beast about to be uncaged. He shook his head. "No, you're the one affecting me. You had a second presentation and went straight into heat. This pushed me into an early rut." I stared at him, bewildered and at a complete loss. I'd only ever been a beta. I had no idea what a heat or a rut felt like. "So what do we do?" Nick looked like he was in agony, and for a moment, I forgot all about our rivalry. I instinctively took a couple of steps back, wanting to let him in. "Why don't you come in and sit down? The scent is so strong it might affect other people." I forgot that I was now an omega, an unmarked omega in heat inviting an alpha in rut into his room. What's the difference between that and asking him to screw your brains out? No difference. But damn it, I didn't know that then. The door clicked shut. I took a few steps inside and noticed Nick was just standing frozen by the door. I turned and looked at him, confused. "What are you standing there for? Do I have to personally invite you to sit?" Nick couldn't take it anymore. "Ben, are you trying to get yourself killed? Inviting an alpha in rut into your room?" I was about to say that I was a beta. Then it hit me. Right. I was an omega now. My slow brain finally caught up to the incredibly stupid thing I'd just done. All I'd been thinking was that Nick's rut was my fault. No matter how much we hated each other, I couldn't just leave him in the hallway. I never considered how my actions could be misinterpreted. I awkwardly backed away a few steps and asked tentatively, I was just thinking I couldn't leave you out there. I wasn't thinking about anything else. So, should I call you an ambulance?" The moment I said it, the room felt like it was flooded with the rich, sweet scent of lychee. It was Nick's pheromones. He undid the top button of his black shirt, running a hand through his hair in frustration, revealing his pale forehead. Nick was really good looking. He pulled out his phone. "No need. I'll order some suppressants for you. As for me, I'm allergic to most suppressants. I can just ride it out. Ride it out." If he'd reined in his pheromones even a little, I might have believed him. I opened my mouth, then closed it, not bothering to argue. The heat was making my breathing grow ragged. I leaned against the foot of the bed, gasping for air. At some point, my eyes had become wet with tears. Nick's pheromones were like an oasis after wandering in the desert for days. The urge to pounce on him was becoming unbearable. "Can you really just ride it out? Do you need my help?" My words were, without a doubt, an invitation. The possessiveness in an alpha's bones is primal. Especially for an alpha in rut, their craving for an omega is even more intense. Right then, I was like a ripe, juicy peach inviting him to take a bite. Nick slowly approached me, his lychee pheromones wrapping around me, as if wanting to devour me whole. He sat on the edge of the bed, reached out, and pulled me into his arms. "You want to help me?" I nodded. He looked straight at me, one hand gripping my waist, the other gently caressing the back of my neck. He pressed lightly on my scent gland. Instantly, a jolt like an electric current shot through my entire body. Don't touch me there. It's too much." I couldn't stop trembling, my voice so soft I didn't even recognize it. He stopped, his voice a low, soothing whisper. "Okay, easy now, I won't move. I just need a little of your pheromones to calm me down. Just a little." Nick's arms held my waist tightly as he buried his face in the crook of my neck. His hot breath washed over my scent gland again and again. He might have been feeling better, but every second was torture for me. I've never been the type to exercise self-control. In the end, primal desire won out over reason. On some crazy impulse, I bit down on Nick's scent gland. "Hiss, Ben, are you a dog?" He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Unsatisfied, I started crying. "I don't feel good." Nick sighed, his expression unreadable, but his voice had a new, reckless edge. "Ben, when an omega bites an alpha's gland, it means they're not satisfied. It means they want more. You know that, right? So, Nick, can you give it to me?" My completely undisguised gaze made Nick freeze for a second. A blush spread across his handsome face. It was the first time I'd ever seen him look shy. The suppressants will be here soon. Stay away from me. You're the one holding me. How am I supposed to stay away? Nick finally realized he was the one pinning my waist, pressing me tightly against him. But I was like a giant security blanket, and he was reluctant to let go. He looked at me, a little lost. For the first time, I saw confusion in the eyes of a restless alpha. The physical discomfort soon made both of us fall apart. I don't know when, but he had moved closer. One hand pressed on the back of my neck, pushing down, while the other remained wrapped around my waist. His lips brushed against my scent gland, and the moment he bit down, my whole body went rigid. A wave of potent alpha pheromones flooded my gland, and in a daze, a soft moan escaped my lips. Nick's movements stuttered, as if my reaction was a massive stimulant, and he held me even tighter. Okay, that's enough. My voice was trembling and weak. His lips left my gland. The hand on my neck moved up to cover my tear-dampened eyes. Suddenly, his mouth was on mine, a fierce possessiveness that felt like it would crush me. My body was filled with his pheromones. The soothed lily of the valley had no power to refuse the lychee. In fact, it wanted to throw open its gates and welcome him in. I must have been crazy, because I still felt like it wasn't enough. Only when I was breathless did Nick finally let me go. Benny, can we keep going? What did he call me? Benny? Everyone who knew me called me Ben, or sometimes Benji. Even my parents called me Little Ben. Benny, that kind of intimate, repeated nickname. The atmosphere was charged with an unspoken, ambiguous tension. After the temporary mark, I felt an extraordinary dependence on him. I couldn't refuse. I didn't even want to refuse. Okay. A storm of kisses swept over me. I completely lost myself. I forgot we were supposed to be enemies, forgot our families were business rivals. Just as he was about to permanently bond with me, I asked him, "Will it only be me? Will you mark anyone else besides me?" He kissed my eyes. "Only you. Will you still like me tomorrow? Will you still hold me?" He kissed my nose. "I will, Benny." I was the one who invited him to fill me with his pheromones, to tie the knot. When I woke up the next morning, my rational brain finally rebooted. Nick must have been exhausted. He was still fast asleep. Aside from feeling a bit tired, my body felt fine. He must have cleaned me up last night. Oh, fantastic. I'd lost my mind. Waking up to find my arch nemesis sleeping next to me, and I'd been permanently bonded. At that moment, for some reason, the only word in my head was run. Yes, run. I didn't want to face the mutual awkwardness when we both woke up. Besides, I was the omega in this situation. It was too embarrassing. I quickly threw on my clothes, grabbed my phone, and quietly opened the door to escape. The delivery from last night was still outside the door, with a pack of suppressant patches inside. I grabbed one and slapped it on the back of my neck, trying to cover up the lychee scent clinging to me. The first thing I did when I got home was agree to the study abroad plan my dad had been pushing. I was so desperate that I told him I was ready to leave today. My dad was a bit surprised. "Why the sudden rush? That's just how it is. I've already booked my ticket. You can handle the school withdrawal for me." He stared at me suspiciously. "You didn't get into some kind of trouble, did you?" I grinned, my eyes darting everywhere. "How could I? You know what a good kid I am. I just happened to present as an omega, get knocked up by your business rival's son, and get permanently bonded, that's all." "Yeah, right." I couldn't say that. I was afraid he'd break my legs. Not waiting for my dad's reaction, I threw some clothes in a bag, bought a ticket for the earliest flight, and ran for it. On the plane, I decided I had to tell them the truth. I sent a message to my parents. "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you. Please don't kill me. Your favorite son had a second presentation. I'm an omega. You can probably guess the rest." Even with the suppressant patch, the alpha pheromones on me were too strong to hide. Anyone who wasn't an idiot would know what happened. As expected, my parents freaked out. But my phone was off during the flight, so I didn't see or hear any of it. By the time I landed, they had already accepted it. "No matter what you present as, you'll always be our son. Be safe out there. We'll handle things on this end. I've already arranged for someone to pick you up at the airport. Take care, little Ben. I could tell that message was from my mom. If my dad knew the other person was Nick, he'd probably be on the next flight to America to beat me up. So I changed my destination. To truly escape, I went to Germany. Literally no one would have guessed I'd choose Germany. In my second month there, I went to the hospital because I was feeling sick. The doctor told me I was pregnant. Over 8 weeks along, too late for an abortion. That was fine, I guess. At least for the year I was pregnant, I wouldn't have to deal with going into heat. I started taking language classes while taking care of myself. Back home, nothing major seemed to happen. The most was Louis asking where I'd gone, and I just told him I went to study abroad. Everyone, including Nick, thought I was in the United States. The day after I left, he took a leave of absence from school and flew to the US. Rumors flew around campus until he came back a week later, acting as if nothing had happened. I heard he spent every weekend flying to the States. I knew he was looking for me. Too bad for him, I wasn't in America. Of course, I never imagined that one day he would actually find me. The three of us sat on the sofa, staring at each other. A strange tension filled the air. Mrs. Davis, could you take Jellybean to daycare, please? Mrs. Davis was the nanny my dad hired from back home to take care of me. Jellybean was my son, and Nick's son. Jellybean clearly didn't want to leave, pouting his little lips. Daddy, this uncle isn't leaving, so why do I have to? I suppressed my irritation and said to him gently, this uncle is very shameless, Jellybean. Don't be like him, okay? Be a good boy and go. Daddy will pick you up tonight, okay? Jellybean obediently left with Mrs. Davis. And then there were two. Nick leaned back on the sofa, raising an eyebrow with a playful tone. Mine? Even though he was asking, his tone was confident. Because Jellybean was the spitting image of him as a child. I snapped back, you don't have eyes? Can't you see for yourself? He looked down, feigning hurt. Benny, you're so mean. Benny. There it was again. Benny, you smell so good. Benny, you're so cute. Benny, is this pressure okay? Benny, let's go again. He had called me that all night long. Now, hearing Benny gives me a strange feeling in my chest. I can't quite describe it, but it's not pleasant. Running away was pointless. And besides, this whole thing was probably my fault. I was the one who texted the wrong person and let him into my room. I was the one who had a second presentation which triggered his rut. I was the one who clung to him and wouldn't let him leave. And I was the selfish one who hid the truth from him, making him a father at 24 without him even knowing. I was the one who made the mistake, the one who ran, and yet he was the one who searched the world for me. For the first time, I met his gaze and said seriously, Nick, I'm sorry about all of this. Don't worry, whatever you want as compensation, I'm willing to give it to you. He dropped his casual demeanor, looking like he was about to laugh from sheer anger. Which thing are you talking about? The part where you disappeared without a word, or the part where you had my child in secret? Nick slowly moved toward me, pulling me into his arms, just like that night. I was speechless, stiffly avoiding his gaze. I'm talking about all of it. His hand pressed against the back of my neck, forcing me to look at him. That night was my fault. I'll take responsibility for you. I want to. No. I struggled out of his embrace, my voice urgent. I don't need you to take responsibility. I can raise him just fine on my own. I was scared. We had no real feelings for each other. Not in the last 20 years, and one night together couldn't change that. I didn't need him to be responsible for me, and I didn't need him to be responsible for Jellybean. I was scared. I was scared he would take my Jellybean away from me. I gave birth to Jellybean. I love him so much, and my parents love him so much. Whenever they have free time, they fly to Germany to see me and to see him. Nick is his biological father, and I'm terrified he'll try to take him. He's so lovable anyone would adore him. As for me, I've already made up my mind. Permanent bond is hard to remove, so I'll just have my scent gland removed. I survived 3 years of heats on my own. What's a little surgery to be afraid of? Nick, you should go back. I'm doing just fine on my own now. He collapsed onto the sofa and reached out, hooking his pinky finger with mine. No, I don't want to go back. Unless I'm dead. Otherwise, I'm not leaving. I never knew he could be as stubborn as a mule. He was completely insane. He stared straight at me, saying nonchalantly, "Just give me a chance, Benny." His thumb gently rubbed the tip of my finger, a subtle, enticing gesture. This isn't about taking responsibility. It's about giving me a chance to pursue you. Please, Ben, I'm begging you. Give the guy who's had a crush on you for over a decade a chance. Nick's words exploded in my brain. I stood there, frozen, not knowing how to react. I understood every word, but I couldn't make sense of them. What do you mean? He stood up and walked toward me. That night wasn't an accident. It was all my fault. It's because I like you that I didn't refuse when you invited me into your room. It's because I like you that I wanted to be close to you. And it's because I like you that my possessiveness took over and I bonded with you. Ben, do you really hate me that much? The corners of his eyes were red as he looked at me, pleading. The faint scent of lychee drifted from him. Did I hear him right? He said he's liked me for 10 years. But I never felt it. At all. He always acted like he hated my guts. I don't know what came over me, but I actually agreed to let him stay. Every day after my classes, he'd be waiting for me at the school gate with a small bouquet of lilies of the valley. Is that your alpha? Jellybean's dad? The other international students I was friends with knew I had a kid named Jellybean, but they'd never met his other father. When Nick showed up, everyone was shocked. He's that handsome, and you're still rejecting him? TSK. Do I look like that shallow of a person, only caring about looks? Of course not. Being handsome means nothing. If he wants to win me over, he has to show me some real sincerity. What I'm enjoying is the feeling of my former nemesis suddenly trying to win my favor. But, of course, there were unexpected developments. For example, ever since Nick arrived, my heats have been especially unbearable. Can't you just hold me? I had to build up all my courage just to shamelessly ask Nick to cuddle with me. After the permanent bond, his pheromones were fatally attractive to me. It was manageable when he wasn't around. But the moment he appeared, I couldn't stop myself from wanting to be near him. Only by being close to him could my feverish, restless heart find some peace. But this guy was dead set on messing with me. He slowly took a step back, putting distance between us. You're the one who said yesterday that I'm still on probation and we have to keep our distance. Great. Just great. He hadn't changed a bit. Still holding a grudge. Fine, I'll go find someone else then. He didn't even look up. Okay. I didn't believe him and pushed further. I'm really going. Go ahead. Remember to close the door on your way out. Fine. I give up. I can't win against him. I'm permanently bonded. For crying out loud. Who else could I possibly go to? I threw my arms around his neck and kissed him hard. Husband, mark me again. Bonus chapter. My dad's rival had a beautiful beta son. His name was Ben. How to describe him? Dangerous and captivating. He was nothing but trouble for me growing up, always trying to compete with me over everything. Not that he ever won. My dad said Ben was just as bad as his father. His dad sent someone to our company to pour boiling water on our money tree, killing it. In a fit of rage, my dad snuck over and smashed their lucky cat statue. Ben was a perfect copy of his father. In the 7th grade, he put a female cockroach in my pencil case. She was pregnant and gave birth to countless baby cockroaches inside. I nearly blacked out and almost beat him to a pulp. It wasn't until 9th grade that we started to present. I presented as an alpha, with a sweet lychee scent. I didn't really like it. I preferred the scent of lily of the valley. He presented as a beta. He didn't seem to accept it, though. The look in his eyes was like he wanted to skin me alive. When did my feelings for him start to change? It was probably in our first year of high school. I had a dream about Ben. He was covered in the lily of the valley scent I loved, smelling sweet and feeling soft. I wanted to pin him down. But the me in the dream was just as pathetic as the real me. When little Ben pounced on me, I shyly pushed him away. When I woke up, I slapped myself in frustration. Useless. After high school graduation, I secretly looked up his college choices and applied to the same school. I didn't want to be too far away from him. Maybe even God couldn't stand it anymore. In our junior year, he gave me a chance. At the party, Ben sent the text to me by mistake. That was the first time I saw a different side of Ben. He was like a seductive siren, and he pulled my rut forward with him. I knew I was making a mistake, but I couldn't help it. My possessiveness and desire were about to explode, and he just kept teasing me. The restlessness of my rut shut down my ability to think. Tomorrow, I promised myself I would give him the grandest confession. But he ran from me for 3 years. I flew all over the United States and couldn't find him. Turns out the guy was hiding in Germany. And behind my back, he secretly had my child. They all say the kid looks like me, but I think he looks like him. As cute as him. 3 years. The moment I saw him again, all my resentment vanished, replaced only by longing and a heart full of love. My persistence finally paid off. Benny finally accepted me. Of course, it would be even better if he didn't have to delay his graduation. But no matter what, I'll be with him always.